Welcome back to Fast Market on the TD Ameritrade Network. I'm Tom White, joined by my co-host Kevin Hinks. But let's bring in our next guest for our cash tag segment, and that's going to be Landon Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show, Landon.
Hey, thanks a lot. Good to be here.
All right, so we're talking travel, we're talking Airbnb, free cash flow king right here. It seems like when I look at the stock down 25%, travel's really big right now, demand's out there. The thing I like about Airbnb is, as opposed to maybe the hotels, is hotels have a brand and you expect a specific thing at a brand. Airbnb has everything from luxury down to maybe a tent on a beach. Are we still seeing, according to your data, pretty robust demand out there for Airbnbs? Because I know they had a problem with the amount of places available. They didn't have enough hosts.
Yeah, so I mean, the data looks pretty good. I mean, when we look at the current quarter that's on pace right now, I think it's on pace for plus 20% year over year on purchase intent. So a good, strong recovery from, the down dip that was COVID. But we're also seeing some concerning numbers when it comes to happiness. And in general, Airbnb is doing better than the aggregators, but not as well as the hotels. On this chart, we're looking at that purchase intent. So basically people saying that they're booking an Airbnb or they're at an Airbnb, they're staying at one, that kind of thing. And here we've got the happiness. So you can see, though, the top, we're kind of comparing Airbnb to hotels and aggregators. The aggregators are at the bottom, Expedia, Booking, Priceline, all those. People just generally have a very distasteful view of those white websites. Airbnb at 62% is okay when you compare to those, but really the competition is hotels, and people have a much more favorable view of hotels, especially Hyatt there at the top. So there's a little bit of concern for this because, as you guys know, happiness is generally sort of a longer-term indicator of future purchase behavior, because if you're not happy, you're not going to go back the next time. So purchase intent right now is looking pretty good. It's looking like it's on a recovery, but happiness for the longer term, I think, is a bit of a concern. And actually, qualitatively, if you go into some of these tweets and mentions, a lot of people have problems with the extra fees that Airbnb tax on. Like, you think you're booking a $250 a night room or house, I guess, and then you stay 2 nights, you think it's going to be $500, but it comes out to 8 something because there's cleaning and service fees and all this. So by the time you're done with it, you think to yourself, I just should have booked a hotel. So I think that for the specialty cases like you're talking about, like the really high-end stuff, I think that Airbnb has a great use case. When they're competing directly with hotels, though, I think they're going to have some problems with those fees and just keeping consumers happy, because the experience from one Airbnb to the next can vary wildly based on how well that homeowner keeps up things and just what the fees are and all that. But with a hotel, you know exactly what you're getting. So I think that range of experiences is going to bite them over the long term. But right now, we're seeing a good recovery.
All right, Landon, we have to have a little more of a discussion about this, because even though these companies on your list here are all in the travel sector, Airbnb is a different traveling experience than a hotel. I'm sure some people are probably worried, hey, I called for more towels and there was no one to call for more towels. You got to go get the towels yourself when you're in a house. Now, I've used Airbnbs and I had great experiences using them. And here's why. I'll turn this around on you, Landon. When I go to a hotel, the taxes and fees sneak up on me. Because when I used Airbnb through their website, you knew the price before you clicked buy. All the fees, and Tom, I'll give you your due here. The fees were high. Yeah. That's the problem. But you knew them going in. You could choose not to click because you knew the fees. It's when I think I'm paying $250 for a hotel room and it ends up being $400 a night or $350 a night. That's the one that sneaks up on me. But I get why they're all together, right? But I know that I'm doing something completely different when I take an Airbnb versus a hotel. Landon, your thoughts?
I agree. It can sneak up on you both ways. And in one case, the hotel, it's the government that's grabbing theirs, right? They got to throw on their taxes. And on Airbnb, it's Airbnb. They're kind of the government. They're throwing on their tax, basically. You call it a cleaning fee, whatever, service fee. They're getting theirs. So I agree it can be frustrating. In all situations, you know the price as you're clicking, but it's different than the initial one that you search by, I think, for both hotel and Airbnb, and that's the frustration. But it is a different use case, and that's why we're not really comparing purchase intent on the two different types, hotel versus Airbnb. But I do think happiness is a good comparison between these two, because you're going to, a lot of the times, Airbnb is the only thing that makes sense, and sometimes hotel is the only thing that makes sense. But there's a lot of times where there's that middle ground where you could go either route. And right now, what we're seeing is the happiness is much, much higher for hotels. And I think it's because you've got a consistent experience that you know you can count on. Whereas with Airbnb, you just have to do a little more research, right? If you read all the reviews and you spend a couple hours, you'll pick a good place on Airbnb. But if you just go pick, a Hyatt with, 4.9 stars, you're fine. You don't have to read all the reviews and get into the weeds.
But I would like Wright has to make his bed. He's not going to be happy in an Airbnb. When he leaves for the day, he comes back, his bed's made. In a hotel,
not that much anymore. But I think that's kind of what I wanted to pinpoint here, Landon, as far as when you look at these names and then you equate them to stock valuations and such, right? There's that uncertainty in Airbnb just based on maybe customer satisfaction. And as Kevin mentioned, the fees are just, literally, I've gone through to travel, Airbnb, I get to the final thing and I'm like, oh no, I'm just getting a hotel because it doesn't compare, and I know what I'm getting when I go to a Kimpton or when I go to a Hyatt. I know exactly what I'm getting for the most part. Is that the key thing when you look at the data, Airbnb compared to a lot of these competitors in this space? When you try to equate it to the stock price and valuation, you look at that happiness. Is that one of the key metrics that you guys are following?
I think happiness is key for future demand. I think it's too forward-looking to pin it to stock valuation right now. I think that when you're talking about stock valuation, you have to think about the fact that Airbnb doesn't own anything, which you could say is a negative, but it's really a positive because they can add and remove properties or listings as quickly as they can without having to construct things. And so them being the middleman and them kind of owning this entire industry, they effectively are owning it. VBRO is strong, but Airbnb is the one. It's kind of like Uber versus Lyft, or even more so. So they own this. It's really a technology company. And so I love the business model. I just think they need to fix this happiness problem. If they can get that 62% up to 70 or 75, then all of a sudden you've got a lot more people who are, when they are set on a hotel, are going to start considering Airbnb, and then your market becomes way, way larger. So long term, I think they've got to fix their happiness before I can become really bullish. Right now, I think short term, they've got a great business model. They're getting a little bit of a bounce back on consumer demand. So I think it's an okay investment here, but I'm not bullish long term until that happiness number comes up.
Right, and that's the problem with the happiness number when you're dealing with this asset-light model where they don't own anything. You can't have the control that maybe a lot of hotels and hotel franchisees do have on their business. I think that's a concern. That's probably going to be, big barge in a river trying to turn that thing. It's going to be difficult just due to all the outliers from their hosts across the board. So it's definitely a concern. So you guys are bullish longer term, but they definitely need to work on their happiness. All right, great stuff as always, Landon. Appreciate all the data. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, that's Landon Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio. Kev, when you look at this name,